I still remember very clearly, a few years ago, on a rainy afternoon at the hospital, the doctor looked at me with a gaze that was both serious and sad. If you keep living the way you are now, your life expectancy will be shortened by at least 15 to 20 years. When I heard that, I froze. I had always thought I was healthy, just in my 40s, eating well and exercising regularly. But the doctor told me that I was shortening my own life, with the habits I had right after meals. The scary part was, it wasn't just me. Almost everyone around me was making the same mistakes. That day, I sat in the clinic, holding my test results, seeing a whole list of red flags: high cholesterol, abnormal liver enzymes, signs of prediabetes. The doctor gently pointed to one line and said, "You know, if you just change 5 habits right after eating, not only can you avoid diseases, but you could also live at least 20 more years." I didn't believe it. It sounded like an advertisement, but as the doctor explained, I began to understand. After a meal, your body is in a particularly sensitive state. The digestive system is working at full capacity, with blood rushing to the stomach, while other organs make room for the digestion process. If you do the wrong things at this time, you're silently harming your heart, liver, kidneys, blood vessels, without even knowing it. I left the hospital that day with a mix of confusion and curiosity. The question echoing in my mind was, what have I been unknowingly doing after meals that's so dangerous? When I got home, I started paying closer attention to myself. I'd drink strong tea right after eating, occasionally smoke, lie down and scroll through my phone, and sometimes even take a shower immediately after eating. What I thought were harmless habits turned out to be the silent age killers. That was when I decided I had to research this thoroughly and make a change. And once I started applying the advice, just a few months later, my health had improved significantly. I slept better, my digestion was smoother, my skin looked brighter, and my weight stabilized. When my friends saw me again, they asked, "Why do you look younger?" I just smiled and said, "I stopped doing these 5 things right after eating." The first habit I immediately gave up after meeting with the doctor was drinking strong tea right after meals. I've always been a tea lover. Since I was a child, I've been accustomed to sitting around the table with my family after meals, enjoying hot tea and chatting away. The feeling of sipping a strong cup of tea after eating always felt so comforting. My mouth felt cleaner, my stomach lighter, and there was something elegant, almost like a scene out of an old historical drama. However, when the doctor explained things, I realized I was actually harming myself without even knowing it. The doctor told me, after a meal, our stomach is focused on processing the food we just consumed. At this time, the tannins in strong tea combine with the proteins and iron in the food, forming compounds that are hard to dissolve. The result is that the body struggles to absorb nutrients, especially iron, leading to anemia, fatigue, and dull skin. Not only that, but strong tea also contains a lot of caffeine, which increases your heart rate and can cause palpitations, especially for those with heart problems or high blood pressure. I remember reacting immediately. But I've been drinking tea for years, and I never noticed anything wrong? The doctor smiled and replied, "The effects aren't immediate. They build up over time, and by the time you notice, it's usually too late. It's like a machine that keeps running non-stop. One day it'll break down, you just don't know when." That day when I got home, I decided to try something. Instead of drinking tea immediately after eating, I waited at least 1 to 2 hours before having a cup. At first, it was uncomfortable because it had become a habit. But after just a few weeks, I noticed I was sleeping better. The caffeine no longer kept me awake at night, and most notably, my stomach felt lighter. I didn't have the heavy, bloated feeling I used to experience. I told a friend of mine, who's a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, about my experience, and he added an interesting perspective. In traditional Chinese medicine, after a meal, the stomach is like a pot of soup boiling away. If you pour in cold tea, something that's inherently cooling, yin, it's like splashing cold water into the pot, disrupting the digestion process. After hearing this, I shuddered. What I thought was a refined and elegant habit was actually a silent killer. The surprising thing was, when I gave up the habit of drinking strong tea right after meals, my body began to show subtle but clear positive changes. My complexion became rosier, my afternoon fatigue significantly decreased, and after 3 months, my blood test results showed that my hemoglobin levels had gone back up. This was just the first bad habit I broke. But there's another habit, one that's even more dangerous, as it doesn't just affect digestion, but also puts pressure on the heart and circulatory system, and I bet many people are doing this every night. The second habit I gave up was lying down right after eating. In the past, after eating, I had this little joy, lying back on the sofa, scrolling through my phone or watching an episode of a show. It was such a relaxing feeling, especially after a satisfying dinner. But that happiness came at a price. I paid for it with acid reflux and chest discomfort in the middle of the night. The doctor explained that when we finish eating, the stomach is full and working hard to digest the food. If you lie down right away, gravity isn't helping, and instead, stomach acid and food can easily flow back into the esophagus. This is the main cause of heartburn, a burning sensation in the throat, and over time, it can lead to esophagitis or Barrett's esophagus, a precursor to cancer. I still remember there was a time when I would frequently wake up in the middle of the night, feeling a lump in my throat, a bitter taste in my mouth, and discomfort. I thought it was due to eating salty or spicy food, but once I stopped the habit of lying down after meals, the symptoms almost completely disappeared. The doctor also emphasized, when you lie down immediately, not only is digestion affected, but the heart also has to work harder. This is because blood flows to the digestive system and the abdominal area, while lying down causes the blood flow to slow, which can lead to a slight increase in heart rate and feelings of shortness of breath, especially in people with heart disease or obesity. That day, after hearing the doctor's advice, I decided to make a change. After eating, I would stand up, wash the dishes lightly, or take a slow walk around the house for 10-15 minutes. At first it was hard to get used to because my brain kept calling me to the sofa and my phone. But gradually, I noticed my body responding very positively. My stomach digested food faster. I no longer had the feeling of being stuffed to my throat. I slept more soundly, and when I woke up, I didn't feel sluggish. Interestingly, a Japanese friend of mine told me that in Japan, many families consider a light walk around the garden after dinner as part of their evening routine. They call it shanpo, a walk for digestion. And it's no coincidence that Japan is one of the countries with the highest life expectancy in the world. I realized that sometimes health is about very small actions. Giving up the habit of lying down after eating costs nothing, requires no medication, just awareness. And after just a few weeks, I felt more energetic in the evening, no longer experiencing the sluggishness after meals that made me want to nap right away. But then, I discovered another habit I once thought was clean and good for the body, only to find out that it can be a dangerous trap if done right after a meal. The third habit I gave up was taking a shower right after eating. Sounds strange, right? I used to think that after a full meal, taking a warm shower would help relax the body and improve sleep. But that was before I learned what actually happens inside the body at that moment. The doctor explained. After eating, the body prioritizes sending blood to the digestive system to process the food. When you take a shower, especially a hot shower, the blood vessels under the skin dilate, causing a large amount of blood to be redirected to the surface of the body to regulate temperature. As a result, the blood supply to the stomach decreases, slowing down the digestive process, which causes bloating, indigestion, and in some cases, stomach cramps. I remember experiencing this myself. One time I got home late from work, had dinner, and then immediately jumped into a hot shower. The result was that my stomach became bloated, uncomfortable, and even a bit nauseous. At that time, I didn't think it was because of the shower. I blamed the food. But when the doctor explained it to me, I had an aha moment. What's even more dangerous is that for people with low blood pressure or heart disease, taking a shower right after eating can cause a sudden drop in blood pressure, dizziness, or even fainting. The reason is that blood is competing between the skin and the digestive system, forcing the heart to work harder to pump enough blood for both. I asked the doctor, "So how long after eating should we wait before showering?" He replied, "At least 30 minutes to an hour. Ideally, 1.5 hours, so the stomach has processed most of the food. At that point, taking a shower will have much less impact." At first, it was really inconvenient to change this habit, especially during hot summer days. But I got into the habit of doing light chores after eating, washing the dishes, wiping the table, or taking a short walk. When I finally took a shower, my body had digested the food well, and I found showering to be much more comfortable. What's surprising is that this simple change caused the bloating after meals to almost disappear. I also slept deeper and no longer felt heavy when I lay down. But there's still another habit I once considered scientific, and even though many of my friends still do this every day, turned out to be silently eroding both the digestive system and the joints. The fourth habit I gave up was exercising right after eating. I used to think that exercising after meals would help burn some calories, preventing weight gain. It sounded very reasonable, and many of my friends believed in it too. In fact, there was one time when I finished dinner and immediately ran 3 kilometers around the park. The result? My stomach felt like it was being stirred up. I had chest tightness, was out of breath, and I even got stomach cramps in the middle of the night. The doctor explained, "When you exercise right after eating, your body pulls blood away from the digestive system to supply the muscles for physical activity. As a result, the stomach doesn't get enough blood for digestion, leading to delayed digestion, bloating, stomach cramps, and even diarrhea. Moreover, intense physical activities like running, jumping, or weightlifting can increase pressure in the abdominal area, causing stomach acid to reflux into the esophagus." I asked, "So why do so many people say walking after eating is good?" The doctor smiled and explained, "Walking gently, slowly for 10-15 minutes is fine, but that's not high-intensity exercise. It's more like supporting digestion than burning calories." Since that day, I changed my approach. After dinner, I only take a relaxed walk or do light housework, like watering the plants or folding clothes. After 1-2 hours, once the food has been digested, I would start my serious workout. The result was that I felt healthier, my stomach was lighter, and I no longer had those sudden stomach rumbling episodes. What's important is that I realized sometimes the timing can be just as important as the action itself. Doing the right thing at the wrong time can still cause harm. And there's one final habit, one that sounds sweet but is quietly shortening your life every day. The final habit I gave up was having sweet fruits for dessert right after meals. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Since childhood, we've all been used to the scene where, after finishing a main meal, we wrap it up with a plate of fruit. A few slices of ripe mango, a cool piece of watermelon, or a sweet bunch of grapes. I also thought this was a great way to get extra vitamins and fiber. But the truth the doctor shared surprised me. Eating fruit right after a full meal is not only not good, but it also harms your digestive system and blood sugar levels. Why? After a main meal, our stomach is full and busy processing a complex mixture of food, starch, protein, and fats. Fruit, which digests quickly, when consumed at this time, gets stuck in the stomach, fermenting, producing gas, causing bloating and acid reflux. If you pay attention, you'll notice that many people who eat watermelon or mango immediately after a meal tend to burp, pass gas, or feel a dull ache in the upper abdomen. The doctor also warned, with high-sugar fruits like durian, grapes, and mangoes, eating them right after a carb-heavy meal can cause a sharp spike in blood sugar. If you do this regularly, it significantly increases the risk of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. I remember one evening after a big dinner, I treated myself to nearly half a mango. The result? My stomach started rumbling loudly in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep, and when I woke up, I felt exhausted. Since I stopped this habit, I've changed the way I eat fruit, either 30 minutes before the main meal or at least 2 hours after. What's surprising is that my digestion has greatly improved. I no longer feel bloated after meals. In fact, I even lost a few pounds because I wasn't unknowingly loading up on extra sugar at the end of my meal. Looking back, I realized that these 5 habits, which seemed small, actually have a huge impact on health and longevity. Drinking strong tea right after meals. It hinders nutrient absorption, especially iron. Lying down right after eating increases the risk of acid reflux and harms the heart. Taking a bath right after eating reduces blood flow to the stomach and hinders digestion. Doing intense exercise after eating pulls blood away from the digestive system, causing digestive disturbances. Eating sweet fruits right after a meal causes bloating and spikes blood sugar. I gave up all 5 of these, and just after a few months, my health noticeably improved. Digestion became smoother, sleep was deeper, energy levels increased, and my health metrics improved. The doctor even joked, "If you stick with these habits for life, you'll add at least 20 more years of good health." I'm sharing this story not to scare you, but to remind you. Sometimes, longevity doesn't depend on grand things, but on the small habits we do every day. And just by making changes today, you'll see how your body will thank you. If you found what I shared useful, don't forget to hit the like button to support, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any health tips, and share this video with your loved ones. Who knows, maybe a small change today could help them live many more healthy years.